Are you recording?
Me?
No, RJ.
Probably not.
2, 3.
Welcome to the 4th episode of Best Motion Picture 2010. Today we are going to be talking about The Fighter and Burlesque. We are going to start off with talking about The Fighter, the story of The Fighter.
Yeah, I literally only have 2 bullet points for this. One is a quote from my notes while watching the movie, which was, "I simply do not understand boxing." I'm not into boxing, but I was nervous, compelled, and impressed with, Dickie Eklund's sobriety. And when at the, spoiler alert, when he goes back at the very end of the crack house, but decides not to use, that was the most compelling part of the movie to me. And that's literally all I have to say about the story. I gave it a 3. It was fair.
Whenever he takes the cake and we all know where he's going, I was like, damn, this guy really is going back the day he got out. I can't believe it. But then he doesn't. It was almost like a PSA, straight out of Just Say No. I was proud and just astonished, but I'm really happy, if that is a true moment. You were like, I do not understand boxing. I said, this is the Queen's Gambit for boxing. Mark Wahlberg's Queen's Gambit. And then the rest of the story stuff, I was not expecting a story about kind of recognizing toxic family behavior and issues and controlling and manipulative family members. I wasn't expecting that out of this story. We can talk about the acting again in a second.
Yeah, girl.
I wasn't expecting that to be a storyline of Mickey learning how to distance himself from his family and just do what he wants. I gave it a 3 as well for story. I thought it was a pretty fair story. It wasn't extremely impressive or mind-boggling or anything, but it was good. So, almost before we get into the acting, RJ pointed out that the cinematography was done by the same person who had done Tenet and Interstellar, so someone who works with Christopher Nolan a lot. I was just like, oh, I'm glad that this person did this, they know what they're doing. I also loved the moments for the boxing fights where they used,
the real cameras from HBO. It's the same ones.
It was such a good added touch. Oh, the only thing, and I felt like this was due to editing and even costumes, was after that first clip that said Lowell, Massachusetts, 1993, I wasn't sure if we were still in 1993 or if there was a time jump because it cut to black. That was a markdown for me as far as the art. David O. Russell, he had definitely a little hot streak in the kind of late 2000s, early 2010s. He's not bad, but he's not, in my opinion, one of the greats.
Before we get into acting, I learned that this movie was shot in 33 days. During that time, Mickey Ward and Dickie Eklund lived with Mark Wahlberg in Lowell. Yeah, it was a very immersive set, and they took over this small town in a very respectful and liked way, from what I read.
Well, then the acting.
Oh my God.
The first note was Christian is transformed.
I wish I didn't know how much people respected him in this role beforehand. I almost didn't care because I knew it was this is going to be his greatest performance ever. So when I was watching it, I cared so much more about seeing Melissa Leo and Amy Adams.
Melissa Leo blew me away.
The manipulation of your grandma crying into your ear while your dad gets sent to jail for armed robbery for 10 years. That's when I was like, this is fucking beyond.
Amy Adams, I felt, was kind of weak sauce, though. She wasn't reacting to all of 7 of his sisters calling her a skank, real enough for me. If RJ had 7 sisters, and for some reason they were calling me skank, I'm about to kill them all.
Yeah.
I'm a Taurus, so maybe that's what a Taurus would do, but I was like, come on, Amy. I with what she's been in, not drama, but from something like Catch Me If You Can too, like, enchanted, blah. But,
yeah,
like,
she's got the range. She might not be the tooch, but she's got the range.
and then Mark.
Yeah, his performance is fine. He essentially, like, created this film. This is, like, his passion project, and I'd argue even, like, his life's greatest work.
You could tell that he was very into it and passionate and trying, and, you know, however, he was not an innocent little boy guy. Like, first, how old was he supposed to be? He's definitely older than Mickey was at the time. Mickey might have this, like, soft heart, but I know Mark Wahlberg doesn't. And even maybe 10 years ago...
No.
Stuff hadn't...
He was in a gang in the 80s.
I was like, he is not some innocent, sweet boy. Shut the up. Like, I don't know.
Right. When I think of Mark Wahlberg as a good actor, I think of him as a good comedic actor. And I love him in The Other Guys. I think that this is his life's work, and that's his greatest role.
So I did give this a 3. Thought it was fair. I couldn't push myself. Well, maybe I could give it a 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, like, I want to give the 4 for Melissa Leo and Christian Bale.
Okay.
Because the rest of the movie, like, everything else, I'm like, yeah, it was fair.
I was, like, between 4 and 5, but I'm going to give it a 4. The women's costuming in this movie, I, like, literally lived for when on the first date, Charlene has on those strappy heels with the big hoots and the scrunchie in her hair and her updo. The women that this movie is really based on were, like, infuriated about the way they were portrayed, and so was Dickie Eklund, and was like, that's not what my sisters look like. How dare you make them look like trash? Like, it was a problem. However, when Melissa Leo was on set in costume, people in Lowell mistaked her for Alice all the time.
Damn.
Right, so I'm like, that's horrible that it's like they felt like we don't look like trash, we don't talk like this, but they hit the nail on the head. I gave it a 3. I gave it a fair.
I gave it a 2 because to me it was unnoticed. Yes, we were in high school, but it was like I was never interested in boxing. It, like, came and went, like, I forgot what it was about, who it was about. I just wasn't into it.
If I had, like, thought about it being relevant at the time, me personally, I might have given this a 1, but based on my research of, like, how and why this movie got made, I'm giving it a 3. This is Mark Wahlberg's passion project. He saw himself in real athlete Mickey Ward. He put together this entire team for the movie. I don't know why I keep doing that weird Harley Quinn fake Boston accent. And he trained for this movie since 2005. Like, he was like, I need to train for years and learn how to box for real to make this movie someday. He also didn't take a salary for this movie. No, I'm paying for everything, and I'm not taking a dime. Christian Bale was not the first choice for Dickie. In fact, I think he was, like, borderline the third choice, and Mark Wahlberg only contacted him to play the role after Eminem turned him down.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, Christian Bale's also 3 years younger than Mark Wahlberg. I don't know how old Dickie is, because every time I kept reading about their age difference, every website reported a different year. I'm like, how f***ing old is Dickie Eklund? But Christian Bale is 3 years younger, and Melissa Leo is not old enough to play their mom. And she was offended when they offered her this role at first. And then, you know, it's Melissa Leo in The Fighter.
Mark Wahlberg was too old, I feel like.
It makes sense. It's like, no, he wanted to make this movie, blah, blah, but it's like, if he didn't want to play this role, he would never have been cast. Sports Illustrated called this the best sports movie of the decade. I'm not an athlete. I can't really speak to that, but, like, this was a good sports movie. The movie ends with Mickey Ward winning the World Boxing Union, but allegedly, people who are actually into boxing do not necessarily consider this a world title, and he lost that title 5 months later. So I'm like, why was this story really that important?
Well, then it was made because Mark Wahlberg wanted to showcase someone from Massachusetts, from, like, the Boston area, from Lowell. I did give it a 2 for 2010. Yeah, I think I did, because I was like, I didn't notice.
Yeah,
I didn't care about this movie. But even today, guess what? I don't care about this movie.
I gave it a 2.
I gave it a 1, because what we are talking about it and we watched it, but, like, no one is giving a f*** about this movie in particular. No one is talking about The Fighter, and I will never watch this again.
Oh, I will never watch this again as well.
And it's not a bad movie. I just am so, I guess, apathetic towards it. It didn't do enough for me to really get me salivating over it.
I gave it a 2 because, like, our word for that is unnoticed. Once again, I'm not a sports person and I've never been an athlete. The real legacy of this movie is not, like, telling the story of Mickey Ward, but it is Mark Wahlberg's reputation as an artist, as a bodybuilder. Sorry to Mickey Ward, who I, of course, looked into. He's considered a hometown hero. He has his own apparel company. He still trains people in boxing, and he's a very strong advocate for chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. He tries to warn parents about contact sports too early. I would never think about Mickey Ward. I would never learn about him at all. I would never put on boxing ever in my life. When boxing was on at a bar, when there were bars to go to, I, like, would make sure I sat the other way. What I think you will be pleased to know, Dickie also tries to train too. He is not as successful as Mickey, but he is allegedly still sober and is still in touch with Christian Bale, and they're still good friends.
I do love that.
Right, like, that's really touching to learn. It's like they lived with these men, tried to embody these men, and then it's like, no, now they're still close in each other's hearts. Oh, and Mickey and Charlene are still married, so that's great.
Aww.
Yeah.
Marginalized persons representation.
What'd you give this?
Give it a 1.
Okay.
However, I have a gay thing. Mark Wahlberg at one point says, I want Dickie back, but I would just love the clip of I want Dickie. The way he says it too, he's like kind of whining. And the second thing, in like the final fight, there's a point where he licks his mouth guard and he's like, it's a shot, and I'm like, that was the gayest thing. Those are the 2 tiny, tiny little gay moments in the movie. But otherwise, it's a 1 because there is only white people in this movie, and there's no gay people.
I see there's only white people in this movie, and I raise you, what about that joke about the black Jewish person?
What about the joke about Eric Andre?
Oh my god.
I was wrong. Actually, he does fight not the black Jewish person, but a different black guy, and he and his trainers are all black. But guess what? They never speak.
I can't believe you didn't notice how diverse the jail was.
Wow, yeah, the jail was so diverse.
That wasn't completely filled with black people, which was good. I was like, there are some white people in the jail too, because it would have been horrific.
But that also wouldn't have been accurate based on like the black population of Boston.
I gave it a 2, unnoticed, because like when we did Social Network, it is like a historical thing. In Social Network, I think we both gave it a 1 because they literally cast a white person as an Indian man.
And they said the T slur.
They did. But in this, it was like, this was another history piece that I just wonder, bigger movies as they come out, people are starting to really be like, do we need this story? Why do we keep doing this when we could highlight the hidden figure stories instead? I'm sure there's tons of stories about black boxers who've been through way fucking worse shit. We don't get their movie. There was nothing to shoehorn in. So I gave it a 2.
Maybe I will adjust as well, because it's like there were some people and it was a historical movie. I'll adjust to a 2. Manson Family Disclosure. I said no.
No.
Now.
Let's go off.
Let me see your burlesque. Oh my god. The story.
Yes.
The story of Burlesque. I gave a 1 question mark.
Same.
Cher literally was bitching about the writer/director that if they would have cut so much of the movie or edited the script more, that it could have been a good little popcorn movie and it would have been better.
100. There's no need for that hetero storyline between Allie and Jake. This movie could have just been a young starlet, an atonement with the mother storyline, and saving the club, and it would have been lit beyond cult classic actual hit.
There's obviously, it didn't say obviously, but I'm like, obviously a lot of, I don't want to say homages, Cabaret. Like, you can't deny the similarities. Okay, in Cabaret, this happens. this happens, then that happens, then that happens. And I was like, yeah, we really could have done without this storyline, because then that would have made it less like Cabaret. And then, of course, Alan Cumming, that connection to Cabaret. But
Right.
The story is bad, and I feel like they sacrificed so much good story and good writing, good lines, to, I guess, do these like great dance numbers. I love the dance numbers and everything about them, but there's so much unreal dialogue.
God, yeah. I read somewhere that one of the reviews said like some comedies could never reach the level of humor that this movie gets completely by accident due to its dialogue. The things that made this bad was how bad the over-the-top moments were, especially Allie dancing in the street, I found completely relatable, but Allie, like, not being able to not dance while giving out drinks in the club, I was like, oh my god, this is the dumbest f***ing shit I've ever seen, especially when the music cuts out while she's finally getting to dance and she decides to go, what a bright time, it's the right time.
No, yeah, total Mean Girls moment. But yeah, like, what on God's green earth would make someone just, oh no, my music cut out. I do love the little, like, ooh, twist storyline that they sell the air rights. Marcus can go F himself. He's, like, not even, like, a bad guy. He's just the wrong guy.
Story, a 1.
I gave it a 3.
Same.
Because of the dance numbers, the costuming, the wigs, the everything that wasn't the acting, basically. I love the club set. Stanley Tucci, yeah, is great. This is the second movie he gives someone a makeover to while Madonna is playing.
And then they do a big montage on the street, and that was very purposeful when I did the research. It was like, we wanted to have the Devil Wears Prada scene, so we did it.
Cher is Cher. I think, I don't want to say, like, it was great, because it wasn't a performance that ascended me into Nirvana, but it was fucking great. Cher.
God was on screen, period.
It's Cher.
Yes. Yes.
And Christina could have been worse.
Right. What I'll say, this was her literal first acting role ever. And she was super involved with me, like, she wrote all the songs, blah, blah, blah. The only time that I watched, I was like, oh, ex-Tina, you're doing not it, girl, is when she's, like, begging for a audition. They definitely told her, like, just riff, just improv. And she keeps being like, please, Tess, I need this. Come on, you know I can do this, blah, blah, blah. And, like, the way they cut that ADR into that scene, it's awful.
But it's, like, a clear ADR, like, just give me a chance. And,
There's no motion at all. What I would like to say about this ensemble altogether, I don't know if you've seen that tweet that was like, name a movie where you can see that the cast all had such a fun time making it. I'll go first. Knives Out. This is one too. They definitely all were just like having a fucking ball, whether or not they like gave a shit about if the movie was good.
The movie came about because the director/writer is like the brother of whomever created the Pussycat Dolls, and like went and saw one of their performances and was like, yeah, I'm gonna make a movie about this, but not about this. So it's very, as someone who watched Moulin Rouge at probably a too young age, Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, the one scene when they're in a strip club, I'm bi, so I'm like, oh yeah, women like burlesque, blah, 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 but like, I want to do that. I like love watching it, and I'm not even like horny. I'm just like, I just love this.
Bitch, you have done burlesque numbers. When you did that Panic at the Disco number, come on.
Okay, I've done it, but like, I mean...
That's how much I was like, Julianne Hough was on the screen, and I like cartoon dog, like, la 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 la, you know, like... I
gave it a 3? I remember this, and maybe because I was 15 and in high school and not out and not admitting that I liked girls, but I was like, this movie's like cringe.
I remember got one imprint of a bad review, and at the time I was like, that's a dumb movie, I'm never going to watch it. This was my first time sitting down to watch it, and my gay ass took pictures whenever we like actually went to the club So I was like, you need to know what my real-time reaction was when the gayest fucking shit on earth started happening.
I definitely watched this, like at a sleepover in high school. I watched it last year in quarantine because it had been a while, and I know I definitely watched it, like, a couple times over the last 10 years.
The reviews from that time seemed like a really mixed bag. Hit big financial success with its Thanksgiving release. The AV Club called this unapologetically gay, which is extremely accurate. Cher won a Golden Globe for You Haven't Seen the Last of Me Yet, and then she won a Razzie for Worst Supporting Actress. They were nominated for 2 Golden Globes and 2 Grammys, and people really criticized that because they thought they had purchased their Golden Globes.
No, that was another part of the trivia that was like, this and The Tourist being nominated for Best Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes, people were upset about.
The Tourist, maybe, spoiler alert, people saying that terrible reviews, and that was scathing that was nominated for Golden Globes. But this, and the negative reviews, and all of them that were earnestly negative, seemed to only focus on the performances of the men in the movie. There's a scathing review from the Austin Chronicle that does not even discuss Christina Aguilera or Cher at all. So it's like, what the f*** did you think the movie was about?
How does it fit in today? I gave it a 4.
Okay.
And maybe it's just the people that I'm friends with or follow online. Whenever it hit Netflix, I remember, like, seeing stuff. I don't know, the gay people that I follow, like, I don't want to say don't shut up about it, but, like, I'll see stuff resurfacing every once in a while. I feel like there are some iconic things from it that people do still, like, post. I find it extremely relevant, and it is almost, like, I know earlier, like, oh, it could have been such, like, an instant cult classic. I think it's, like, somewhat of a cult classic.
I wrote an exact quote of how I wanted to say this. Calling this a cult classic would be incorrect and inappropriate, but something close to that I think is right. I also gave this a 4. The way that it's been successful, this is one that, like, aged well with time. It got better with time.
Yeah.
This movie grossed about $90 million and made $30 million through DVD sales alone. People wanted to watch this and have this and buy this. There was a traveling drag show starring Pheromone and Chad Michaels that was this movie. It was meant to be adapted into a musical for fall of 2020, but that didn't happen because we had the COVID, blah, blah, blah. I tweeted a Cher meme of this last year, which I'll write down there. The number one thing that I think didn't age well with this, besides, like, diversity, which we'll get into, and maybe this is a diversity thing that we haven't talked about, I think we would see a lot of different body shapes if this movie were released today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I would hope for more diverse body shapes and more diverse people besides, like, one black girl named Coco. Like, fat people are sexy too. Like, you know?
Yeah. We could still have people with different amounts of body fat to showcase what it's like working in these clubs.
Right. I agree. I thought you were going to say how at one point Kristen Bell and Christina Aguilera meet. Christina is like, oh, I'm sorry, you're just so beautiful. And then she's like, oh, stare away, honey. F*** your mama. And then Christina goes, it's a shame they would never know or something. And Kristen Bell goes, never know what? And she goes, that you're a man or something. And I was like, transphobia? ? Like, I was like... And then later, Nikki's like, she called me a drag queen. And I was like, okay. However, that line, get it out of here.
I gave this a 4 because we don't see a lot of visible diversity. I did not forget that ex-Tina Aguilera, honey, she is Latina, you know? There aren't a ton of black people who speak, which sucks. But there are eventually black people who do speak. The sound mixing person, he does speak, and he says it in a way that seems like there's something to that character. They have a couple of black dancers. When I was looking at casting, they originally wanted McSteamy to be played by Jamie Foxx, and then it's like not the right fit. So it seems like some other things with casting, they were looking to have this be more diverse. It ended up being white people.
No, I saw that too. I saw Patrick Dempsey was considered, some other guy, Jamie Foxx, and then it ended up being this McSteamy instead of McDreamy. Yeah, like Christina is she Latina, not just Hispanic?
Her father is from Ecuador.
Okay. Yeah. And Pittsburgh. Cher's, Armenian.
I did not know that.
Oh my god, yeah. Like what Kim K is, not painting her skin. Okay, I gave it a 2/4 because I was like, as far as like racial, there's definitely room for improvement. It was kind of unnoticed. Wasn't terrible. There were, I think, opportunities, and they might have been considered, but then, okay, well, in the end, you did get mostly white people. But then for like the gay, LGBTQ plus community, I mean, I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
It's extremely gay movie. I feel like I don't even want to elaborate. Like, it's f***ing gay.
Alan Cummings is actually by, which is pretty lit, Stanley Tucci ain't gay.
Yeah.
And as amazing as he is, we should be casting more gay people in these roles. And I hate that I don't want to make an exception for the Tooch.
I feel like this was an extension of that Devil Wears Prada character. Like, they saw him in that, and that's why, just like they chose that sequence, they're like, yeah, we want that guy. It really could have gone to a gay actor. Right. Especially because, and that's just the way Stanley Tucci plays a gay person, which is like a real person, not like James Corden, who's like, oh my gosh. Alan Cumming, yeah, is like bi. He has a club of his own in New York called Club Cumming, and I have a friend from college who was working there. It's like a kind of burlesque club, and so like he's just, I love Alan Cumming, and I love that he like even had a small role in this because I'm like, that's so on brand for him. And then Manson Family Disclosure, I didn't really think there was any.
Right.
I mean, I think that's gonna do it for this episode.
Yeah.
Our scores for The Fighter and Burlesque. Both of these movies were actually kind of good. The bad movie was good, but it was still bad. And the good movie was bad, but it was still good. Catch us at Silly Sickos everywhere. Tell us your thoughts on Burlesque, on The Fighter, on Christian Bale, on Cher, you know.
Comment below.
Compliment our looks.
Be sure to like and subscribe, and see you next time.
Bye!
Bye! Do you remember that Vine of that girl being like, Christina, you can't play Mario Kart with us because you always try to sing over the music? She's like, no, I promise I won't.